bij de avonden in Rotterdam. We zitten hier nog een heel uur op Writers Unlimited. En we hebben nog een heel mooi uur voor u met onder andere straks Mugatilo Mabiu en Amat Tohari. Nou, ik ben nog niet zitten. Meneer Mabiu, mevrouw Mabiu is dichteres en actrice. Ze komt uit Kenia en ze heeft de bundel Blue Montague uitgegeven. En Amat Tohari komt uit Indonesië en heeft al ruim 5 romans daar uitgegeven. Dus wij spreken haar straks. En straks ook de Argentijnse schrijver Alberto Manuel en muziek van Anthony Burfer. Dat allemaal straks. Maar nu eerst onder andere Adriaan van Dissen en Etje temelkuran.
Het is misschien aardig om met jou ook over te kijken. Ook al heb je dit festival voornamelijk over wanneer je hebt daar net met ons Os gepraat in de...
Ik word in elk buitenland geduwd. Want ik geloof dat het goed is voor de subsidiegevers dat er ook in Nederland op mee doet.
Ik zou bijna mijn mond gaan ruiken als ik zo vaak het buitenland doe.
Nee, ik reis graag. Maar ik ben nieuwsgierig.
Moeten wij misschien uitleggen in ieder geval even op Engels overschakelen?
That's probably best to speak English.
Very sorry.
Because I miss all the jokes.
No
technique. You haven't read all those jokes. Yes, that's hopefully that will come.
Well, this is actually weird. Now we have to ask you something in English and hoping that, knowing that you're Dutch. All right, just proceed. Going to another country and reporting on it, is that easier for you to be there as an outsider than it is for somebody like Etje who's an insider?
Well, something happens when you travel. I always have a little notebook. Do you have my little notebook today?
You're not traveling.
Yeah, even here I have my little notebook. Okay. And I make notes. It's very often, I don't know what I write. I just write down the things I see. And when you travel, you got detached. At least I am detached. And I see better. I watch better. And I think better. So that's why I like to travel. Even in my own country, when I leave, when I'm in a train, something happens with me. I have open ears, open eyes, and you have lovely phrases and I write down everything.
Is it possible for you to have that same kind of perspective when you're reporting things in turn?
Yeah, actually, Adriaan is right. Your whole existential being becomes an eye. You absorb things. And speaking of little notebooks, I think all the cities, all the walls of all cities are little notebooks of humanity. So I always watch the walls, what's written on the walls. And that will always leads me to the right route, those writings on the wall.
Is there a kind of rule of thumb for that? Is there something you have to look for on a wall then? Is there a trick to it?
The little things, the details and the least visible things. They always say something very important about that society.
You lose a lot when you read the walls.
Yeah.
So it's graffiti. If you only write down your name, you know you're in a society where there's probably not things worth writing down. But sometimes you read really a message.
What do you read? What have you read on the walls in Turkey?
Turkey, right now, too many demonstrations, things about demonstrations. Because there are too many prosecutions at the moment, waves of demonstrations for thousands and thousands of people. So they are calling people for demonstrations to demonstrate against mass prosecutions and so on and so forth. Most probably you see that.
You lost your job at a newspaper because you
I did 1 year ago.
You wrote about the Turkish army an action against the Kurds in 2011. Well, there's something at stake when you write, so you were a journalist and
it wasn't only about army, actually, it was about the government. That's why I think I lost the job. Because the government doesn't want to hear any kind of criticism nowadays. It was Uludere massacre where Kurdish smugglers were killed who were thought to be terrorists. And their ages were between 12 and 16. So, and the government, until now, after 1 year, didn't make any statement about this. And they didn't apologize, and they didn't say the reason why they were killed. So I was one of the first columnists who wrote about this, who criticized this. So that was why it wasn't good.
Is it still possible to write what you want to write?
Not really. No, not really. The mainstream media nowadays is so silent. that you cannot understand what's going on in the country if you're reading only the mainstream. You have to go to the Facebook or Twitter to know what really is going on.
Isn't there other way to write down what you want? I mean, of course. Yeah, because South Africa, for example, during apartheid was under censorship, so people wrote peculiar kind of poetry. But it was like a soft voice that had the effect of a megaphone. People knew exactly what people were writing about. So I can imagine you use other methods, other ways of telling a story.
I've been trying that method for the last 10 years. I'm a lawyer as well, so I know the sneaky ways how to write things, especially in mainstream media. But we came to a point where that strategy never works. It doesn't work anymore. So I can write for marginalized media, social media. I can write for websites. I can write for my own website as well. But I'm waiting to be in mainstream media again. I don't want to compromise.
But is there a chance that you can write for mainstream media again? And what has to change in order to make that possible?
Foreseeable future at the moment.
What has to change to make that possible?
I'm sorry?
What has to change to make that possible for you to write for mainstream
people
media?
have to be less coward, I think. And they have to understand that it's going to be their turn if they don't defend the others. It's like in that classical time in German parliament. When somebody's prosecuted, they always find the legitimization point in their head. He was too much. He was too much this. He was too much this. He was too much that. You see the circle getting very, very small, and then until we're getting to the end, we're getting to very, very near to the end, where everybody will be, suspected. Everybody will be terrorists.
Adriaan, hearing this, you just said that you enjoy the perspective of the outsider looking in. But it does also rob you from this kind of perspective. The kind of risk that you run are not the same.
Sheer luxury. I can enter hell, but I still have an American Express card, and I can leave. I can get out, escape very easily. I know it's very sheer luxury.
But you've been to Turkey with a few other
Yeah,
Dutch
we had
writers.
a peculiar trip because we visited 10 schools. We gave readings at schools. And these were private schools where the medium is English. Young, spoiled brats. But half of them, the pupils, were poor children. And the rich people paid for the poor children. And you could see immediately when you entered the school, because they had the skinny ones, they were the poor ones, the bright ones, and you had the fatty ones, they paid for the poor ones. So it was a very democratic, very sympathetic system. And there we were, telling about our countries, very strange. With Rodan, and he talked about Iraq, he spoke a bit of Arabic, that helped in the south. Angie Brock about South Africa, and she saw Turkey as a kind of third world country like South Africa. I told her, no, it's not third world, it's the first world country. And there I came from the Netherlands. And we all talked about our backgrounds. I talked about Dutch East Indies. Just to explain that we could talk about religion, that we could even say that we do not believe in a God, and that nobody would point a finger at you. But not to tell them that you were better, that your world was better, just that our world was different. That was very interesting. But we had quite an interesting exchange. But I thought it was I was actually thrilled because I had the idea that Turkey is becoming a very modern country. I saw all kinds of alternative windmills and electricity panels on roofs. We're discussing it in Holland. We don't have it enough yet.
Well, that's technological modernity.
It all starts with
at the same time,
technology.
it's a state in which repression is getting worse and worse.
Yeah, Dubai is quite technological, for instance.
Yeah. And it
It's
all
one of the
starts
most
with
repressive
technology.
states in the world.
It has no sense to boycott, to isolate. Modernity brings, economy brings also another freedom.
But did you see anything of that, the political tension,
Internet.
the lack of press freedom?
Half of Africa changed because of internet.
Yeah, but if you use internet with your digital armies to oppress the others, it's not democracy anymore. I know that the government has such digital armies. They confess it actually, it's official. And so they can, for instance, about me, they can create a reality in 15 minutes because there are hundreds of thousands of people. They can tell you about something about you, and it becomes a reality, and there is no beat that reality. They can ridicule you, which is worse than anything else. And when it's done by hundreds of thousands of people, you are really disturbed. And this is the way they do it. They pin you, and then they go after you. It's not only in Turkey, it's outside Turkey as well.
What keeps you going on?
Nothing. I don't know. I found the word hope very slippery, that's why I don't use it. But I think I am not stubborn, but I don't know how to be otherwise.
There's not another way to convey your story, the things you want to say, not other way? Then
I tried that. I am a master of it, actually.
Yeah.
In my young age, I had to be a master of it.
that's what exactly we were doing, the three of us at these schools. We were just trying to talk about other things and hoping that it would just a little needle.
We passed that phase. When I say Uludere, this is where the massacre happened, the one we mentioned before, it's over. The guy is angry. So you cannot turn it back.
So by one word, everything is gone.
Absolutely.
Freedom to say what you want to say.
Yeah, and it's not only the Prime Minister, it's not only the government, the society is quite polarized. Now everybody's angry with everybody. Everybody hates everybody. So it's a chaotic, I don't know, not house.
At the same time, to be a journalist now, there's something at stake. There's something to write about. This is
Absolutely.
the best time.
Not only in Turkey, but also especially in Middle East.
Yeah, it's serious, which is actually a compliment for journalism. We write about the split up of the marriage of a football couple, and you have really things to write about.
Yeah.
How painful.
Is that maybe also what keeps you going on, the sense that there's actually, you were actually maybe even made for this situation? You say, I don't know how to do something otherwise. Maybe this is exactly the situation you were born to handle. Well, I wouldn't say that.
No, actually, I'm
To make the difference.
a novelist, and I would define myself as a literature person. But in such countries like my country, you are born with this responsibility almost to save your country, to do something for your country. I don't see such emotional attachment to the country in Western countries. We are in love and we hate our country. It's like this paradoxal, super schizophrenic relationship. So I always feel guilty because I'm writing novels. Whenever I'm writing novels, I'm doing this very luxurious thing while people are suffering. So it's always this between journalism and writing novels. But I consider myself as a naturalist.
For your journalism, do you get a lot of support?
Yeah, I do. Somehow, but for strange reason, I was chosen the 6th most influential person in Turkey on Twitter by international on Twitter. So I wasn't writing on newspapers, so I was writing on Twitter. So I became the most influential person. But it doesn't mean anything because we still believe in the logos. Although this is a no-logo century, we still believe in logos. New York Times, Herald Tribune, Milliyet in Turkey. It still gives you trust, a feeling of trust. So Twitter or social media just vanishes away in the middle.
What is the single most powerful idea that you are fighting against?
Freedom, I think. Freedom of being how you want to in the most brief sense.
But the conservative people fight for freedom too.
No, they don't fight for freedom.
For their own freedom to be conservative.
No, they are fighting to impose their own lifestyle. They're building new prisons.
Or to impose their own freedom on the rest of the world.
Sorry?
Or to impose their own freedom or their own sense of freedom to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
In that sense, we're all striving for freedom.
The window of this dressing of Turkey is quite amazing. You wouldn't feel like you're in an under oppressive regime if you walk around Taksim, for instance. Some of my friends say that when they come from outside, what are you complaining about? This country is free. It's not like that.
That's something you said.
Unless you are talking
And
about
this window dressing
things.
is all to please the European women?
No, absolutely not. They forgot about the European Union long ago. They have other horizons to conquer.
It's probably the same the other way around. You're Turkey.
Adriaan, you have, well, you've dealt with this in South Africa, a regime so depraved, it seemed that it would never end, and yet it eventually did. Do you have any advice, Treasure?
But why did it collapse? Why did it not collapse? Because people were opposing it. It collapsed because the Berlin Wall collapsed. It was all for economic reasons. It wasn't feasible anymore. They couldn't pay it. And it's very difficult to hear all these people who fought for justice and the anti-apartheid movements, but the West needed this bastion against communism. Communist state in Angola, communist state in Mozambique. When the Berlin Wall collapsed, they let South Africa go. And the South Africans knew what to do, to make peace. That's how it happened. It's the same with, I'm afraid that all kind of big fights we fight have an economic base. That's why I'm so interested in Twitter, in digital revolutions, because we walk behind those things, run behind those things. And the Malawi, which is now more or less in Africa, a democracy, it collapsed because of the fax machine. There was no way to publish articles in newspapers, but people faxed the news to each other. And so there was an elite, not only an elite of mind, but an elite of mind, perhaps, looking for freedom, who changed the country because of the facts. And now I think it's not possible anymore to suppress people because you have to Twitter. Even when they try to Twitter too, there are ways to undermine it.
But the fight is too big. As you said, once they needed that bastion in South Africa, and now they need this bastion in Turkey to
That's why I want
show a
to
good
join the European
example, combination of Islam and democracy, so-called democracy. So they're supporting it so, strongly. So we are kind of alone in Turkey now, on our own.
Thank you both for being
Thank
here.
you.
What's the next
for your work? I wish you'd look a bit more optimistic about it.
What can we do here? Read you, for example?
Sorry?
What can we do here in the West?
Here in the West, for Turkey?
Yeah.
Just spread the news,
Spread the news. So.
please.
We will. Thank you very much. Deze temelkuran en adriaan van deze. Het was het volgende land waar we
Indonesië.
Indonesië.